Hi, this is Thierry Samlal from PMML. Today I'm going to give you the state of multifamily buildings in Quebec for the month of May 2021. So we're at the middle of the second quarter, month of May. Most of the owners have sent their renewals, they've received their confirmations. This year we feel that there's not going to be much movement on the market for tenants. Also, what I'm hearing from the market right now, from the different owners that I'm working with, and from my colleagues here at PMML, is that the tenant base is willing to accept good increases in rent, so that's good news. Not too much movement, probably due to post-COVID, so tenants are staying on location mostly, and increase of rents. Very interesting for the owners on the market. Transactional speaking wise, if we're looking at the volume in dollars of multiplexes transacted in Quebec, the volume has reduced compared to the previous month. Mainly due to the fact that we had massive refinancing of products in the month of November, December, and January. So from 2020 to 2021 across the holiday season, massive refinancing, a lot of financing taking place with CHMC. My financing department is confirming that. We have a large quantity also of transactions in the pipeline right now for refinancing in our financing department. So massive refinancing. A lot of those building owners went back on the market, did purchase assets, and right now a good quantity of them are in the midst of doing that, but they're doing their transactions. So right now, a lot of people went through the due diligence period in purchasing buildings, and now we're going through the financing, etc. So in the next few months, the transactional volume is going to pop right back up. But although we have that, a reduction, what you must know is that the price per door has increased importantly in the last 12 months. We're talking about a 10% increase in average. Some territories went higher than that. And naturally, depending on the asset, depending on the capacity of repositioning that asset, well, the price per door has increased. Cap rates have definitely compressed. We're an average in Montreal right now at about a 4.3. Certain areas were lower, certain areas were higher, depending on the asset, depending if it's a newer asset or an existing asset, a new construction, etc. There could be variability around that, but roughly a 4.3. Remember, a few years back, we were at a cap rate of 5. The market has changed. So basically what we know is when you're looking at those cap rates, you're understanding that the buyers on the market are looking to buy assets that they could reposition. I think that's where the money is to be made in the short term. The interest rates remain low, so it's very interesting for the market right now. That's why we're seeing a lot of an increase in the number of sellers, but also there's a balance there because we have an increase in the quantity of buyers. So naturally, much more buyers than sellers. So it remains a seller's market. But what's interesting to look at is although the quantity of buyers is increasing in the market, but also the quantities of the sellers is increasing also. And that's balancing off the market and keeping a nice and balanced seller's market right now. Transactionally speaking wise, approximately 320 transactions took place in the last month for around $400 million of assets that were sold in multiplexes. On that, almost 63% were in the range of 5 to 11 doors, which is normal for the market. When you're looking at 63%, you could also understand that probably there's a good increase also in the asset sales that took place between the 12 to 49 and the 49 doors and above. So very interesting market. Now I would like to look at the average volumes in sales across the board. When you're in the greater Montreal area, the quantity of sales and the volume in dollars has reduced. Same thing for Montreal, Quebec also, Gatineau also, and also Sherbrooke. In there, we had major transactions that took place last month. large quantity of transactions. When you're looking at the lifespan of a transaction, you have to look at a 3-month to 6-month period, meaning that once you accept your offer, it takes about 3 to 6 months to close. So that batch just went by, and now we're going into another batch, which you should see volumes increase around September. Top 5 transactions, 2 in Côte des Neiges, very interesting. 164 units, 5 floors above ground, 1 basement with garages, a good quantity of garages between 2 metro stations, close to the Jewish hospital. Very good location, good quantity of 3.5s, good quantity of 4.5s, some studios, some 5.5s. An asset that sold for around $200,000 per door, which is in the good comparables for that area. When you're considering that there's smaller units, and also when you're looking at the expense range of that building, the expense ratio, we're about at 33% expense range, meaning that the ratio of expenses compared to the revenues is at 33%, which is quite natural, but also on the low end for that area, meaning that probably the owner has already optimized the assets as far as expenses. Now, what I'm understanding by the buyer is probably that the buyer is going to be repositioning the asset and basically just working off the revenues to increase them. So a nice sale for that area. There's not many buildings that have 5 floors above ground in that area. So definitely a good asset. Congratulations to the buyer. My top 2, Outremont. Outremont historically is not a place where you're going to see a lot of multifamily housing, about 6 doors sold in a year. Most of the owners are home-based in Outremont. They live in Outremont. They own buildings in Outremont. So you're not seeing a lot of sales in 1 year. You're not going to see a lot of sales registered in Outremont. But this asset, very interesting, huge in square footage. Basically, it covers almost a block. A short block, but still a block. Very well located, built at the beginning of the year, completely south of Outremont, so close to the mountain, close to the commercial routes also. The asset sold for close to $335,000 per door with an expense ratio going closer to 36%. So when you're looking at expense ratio and you're also going into the file, you'll notice that basically there's heating paid by the owner. So the owner is looking to reposition this asset. It's a Outremont-based owner that's purchasing it, so he knows the territory, sees the potential in the very large units. We do have a trend in Montreal right now when the rental values are quite higher for smaller units, notably when you're going in downtown Montreal. But here, this asset is going to be definitely looked at by the tenants because it has large square footage. There's a lot of people in the area that want to have square footage. They're selling their homes, etc. They're wanting to go towards an apartment. The building has good cachet, looks very good. And has large units. So we have 6.5s in that buildings. We have 5.5s and we have 4.5s. So when you look at the size of the building and you look at the quantity of units, well, then you compute automatically that the square footage is way above average for that area. So definitely a large upside. Top 3, Côte des Neiges, another building, 45 units, 3 stories above ground, plus a basement with apartments, close to Plamondon Metro, close to the Jewish Hospital, a standard asset for that area, 1960 construction. This one sold for close to $170,000 per door. So $170,000 per door, which is much closer to the average market in that area. Building looks in a good condition from the outside. I never had a chance to visit that asset, but I'm guessing that there's work to be done. The seller is a Quebec-based corporation, and the buyer is a private buyer. It's a family buying. So it seems to be an asset that's going to be repositioned over time. Definitely being close to schools, metro station, hospital is definitely where you want to be these days to be able to reposition your asset over time. Location, location, location is always important. Let's get out of Montreal. I have other nice transactions that took place in Montreal, but I want to talk about Gatineau, which is exploding right now. What's interesting with Gatineau is it's right next to Ottawa. So you're buying on the Quebec territory. You're under-speculated if you're looking at Ottawa. Ottawa is much higher in the price per door value, much higher in rental value also, but we are seeing right now tenant base crossing the border to live in Gatineau, and Gatineau is picking up speed at the speed of light right now, so it's definitely a good place to buy. The purchaser that bought this building is actually is its first purchase in Gatineau. He's buying this 64-door portfolio. So the portfolio is composed of 4 buildings, all one next to the other. It's in the Mount Bleu area. Mount Bleu is north of the casino, northwest, so not too far. Nice location. Now, what we're understanding by this purchase is when you're looking at the portfolio of the buyer, we understand that most of the assets are in the Montreal area. So that buyer is definitely seeing the potential of increasing his value and buying that in that area. He's going for an under-speculated area with very good tenants. There's a lot of tenants working for the government in that area, so stabilized salaries, people that are comfortable. So when you're working in a territory like that with a stabilized salaries, you know that you could increase your rents over time, which makes the asset much more interesting. The sale took place close to $105,000 per door. So this is positioned next to 2 highways, the Gatineau Autoroute and also Boulevard Saint-Joseph, which is a local highway. So definitely a nice asset. Let's finish our presentation today with Sainte-Foy, Quebec. I like to talk about Quebec because Quebec first is a small territory. You could easily read it, and this one is in the Sainte-Foy area. So it's close to University of Laval, and I want to talk about this asset because naturally the tenant base in that area is mostly students, and we could compare this purchase to any purchase we could see in Montreal or any purchase we would see in Sherbrooke, which are 2 university cities, Montreal and Sherbrooke. So this one is close to University of Laval, which is the Quebec University. There's also colleges and CEGEPs around. You could walk to the old Quebec. It's a certain distance, but you're a direct drive right into the commercial areas. It's a very nice spot in Quebec. This sold for about $100,000 per door. So the seller is specialized in the student tenant base. The buyer is definitely seeing the potential to buy a student-based building. The buyer has assets in Montreal, has assets in Quebec also, and is definitely interested in going towards a specialization. So if you're working in Sherbrooke, if you're working in Montreal and you have that tenant base, which is students, naturally what you know is that those students are going to be staying for a few semesters, doing a cycle in university, doing a cycle in the CEGEP or the colleges, and then leaving. So you definitely have a chance to always reposition your asset over time. Every 3-4 years, sometimes 2 years, your tenant leaves, some renovations. You could control your expenses. You could also add inclusions for the students, internet, heating, electricity, cable, other activities in the building, lifestyle, and definitely increase your rents over time. So if you're wanting to reposition and you're looking to buy an asset on the short term, I definitely encourage you to go in that direction. We have territories in Three Rivers also, which are around schools, which have that same feel to it. So a nice way of increasing your revenues over time. So definitely, we're in the month of May. If you're looking at the first 5 months of the year, we've done a record beginning of year. So we're going to have a very, very strong year in multi-family housing, multi-family units. Please keep in touch. Go see our website, PMML.ca. Go see the assets we have for sale. Our financing department is very busy right now. We have a large quantity of buildings in financing and refinancing, a lot with the CHMC. So I could tell you that in the next few months, you're going to see a boom also on the market of sellers out there. If you have any questions, feel free to call me. I'm always available. I'm a phone call away, an email away. PMML.ca once again, landev.ai, which is our other website for the development and repositioning of land. Go have a look at that. We have our commercial department also. So let's keep in touch. Have a great day, and let's talk again in June.